What if I told you that the American Sledgehammer is officially a relic of the past? While the mainstream media is busy analyzing 20th century tank movements, the Pentagon has quietly hit the reset button. They've traded global policing for a high-tech golden dome and replaced human generals with algorithms that think in milliseconds. This isn't just a new strategy, it's a radical rebirth. Tonight, we go inside the classified 2026 National Defense Strategy to reveal the Steel Veil, a new American way of war that is fast, autonomous, and unapologetically inward-looking. If you thought you knew the US military, think again. The gears of power just shifted.
The Pentagon we once knew, that sprawling, bureaucratic fortress of 20th century steel, is effectively dead. For 7 decades, the American Sledgehammer relied on the sheer, visible weight of its power, the massive carrier groups patrolling the horizons, and the heavy tank divisions rumbling across desert sands. But as the smoke from Operation Epic Fury rises over the Iranian plateau, a new and far more terrifying entity has emerged from the shadows. It is an entity that moves faster than a human synapse, calculates with a coldness that no boardroom could ever match, and is currently redrawing the map of the Middle East in real time. This is not just a change in gear, it is a change in the very soul of warfare. Welcome to the era of the Steel Veil, where the soldier is a spectator and the algorithm is the executioner.
Washington has finally, and perhaps permanently, buried the nation-building fantasies that define the first 2 decades of this century. The new military mandate is stripped of all sentimentality. Dismantle, do not occupy. In 2026, the United States military has transitioned into a global demolition crew, uninterested in winning hearts and minds or building schools in foreign lands. The mission now is to ensure that no adversary on Earth possesses the physical hardware or the digital infrastructure to even dream of challenging the American homeland. It is a scalpel doctrine, a philosophy that values the absolute destruction of a target's capability while maintaining a zero-footprint presence on the ground. The message to the world is blunt. We don't want to govern you. We simply want to ensure you are incapable of hurting us.
Inside the shimmering heat of the tactical cloud, the role of the human general has been relegated to that of a high-level observer. We have entered the age of agentic AI, sophisticated software architectures that don't just follow orders, but set their own sub-goals to achieve a commander's intent. In the current sorties over the Iranian desert, these digital minds are the ones selecting targets, rerouting drone swarms, and managing electronic interference in milliseconds. They react to threats before a human operator could even draw a breath. This is the silent command, where the logic of war is processed at the speed of light, and the humans in the room are left to merely verify the devastation that the machine has already flawlessly executed.
The era of the exquisite weapon, the $2 billion B-2 bomber, or the multi-billion-dollar destroyer, is rapidly being eclipsed by a more brutal reality. The Pentagon has finally embraced the hard lesson that in a high-intensity war, quantity possesses a quality all its own. The focus has shifted from a few unbeatable platforms to thousands of attritable ones. Drones and missiles that are cheap enough to be lost by the hundreds in a single afternoon, yet intelligent enough to overwhelm the most sophisticated air defenses on the planet. This is the attrition revolution, a strategic gamble that the American factory can once again outproduce the world's will to resist. Hidden in the vast, nondescript industrial parks of the American Rust Belt, a project known as Replicator 2 has achieved the impossible. It has successfully turned dormant car factories and mothballed steel mills into high-tech, autonomous hives. These facilities are not producing consumer goods. They are churning out thousands of drone hunter F-700 interceptors and Switchblade loitering munitions every single month. By decentralizing production away from the traditional coastal hubs, the US has created a manufacturing base that is nearly impossible to target in a first strike. This is the industrialization of autonomy.
the moment America rediscovered its manufacturing muscles and decided to use them to build a digital legion.
For the first time in modern history, the United States is pulling its protective shield back towards its own shores. The Golden Dome is not a single piece of hardware, but a multi-layered, AI-integrated network of sensors, interceptors, and cyberwalls designed to make the North American continent an impregnable island of security in a fragmenting world. This system is designed to catch everything, from an ICBM to a low-flying cartel drone. The geopolitical implication is staggering. If your nation is not located within the physical or digital borders of the dome, you are officially on your own. The US is no longer the world's 911 dispatcher. It is now the world's most secure gated community.
At the heart of this rebirth is JD2, Joint All-Domain Command and Control. It is the brain of the beast, a massive, encrypted combat internet that links every satellite in orbit, every F-35 in the sky, and every soldier's helmet into a single, unified sensory organ. Imagine a scenario where a Kurdish scout in the Zagros Mountains whispers a coordinate into a headset, and in less than 5 seconds, a submarine in the deep Pacific launches a cruise missile based on that exact data. There is no middleman, no delay, and no room for human error. JD2 has turned the entire planet into a real-time chessboard, where the US military always sees the next 10 moves of its opponent.
The hypersonic gap that once haunted Washington has been slammed shut. With the 2026 deployment of the Dark Eagle long-range hypersonic weapon, the US now possesses weapons that travel at such extreme velocities they turn the air around them into glowing plasma. At Mach 5, there is no such thing as a warning siren. There is only the sudden, violent flash of impact. These weapons have made traditional missile defenses look like slow-moving relics of a bygone age. In 2026, the distance between launch and victory is measured in minutes, and the speed of the attack has become a form of psychological warfare itself.
Washington has officially stopped asking its allies for cooperation and has started issuing demands. The 5% ultimatum, 3.5% military, plus 1.5% defense-related spending, has sent shockwaves through the parliaments of Europe and the ministries of Asia. The message is cold and transactional. If your nation does not spend a significant portion of its GDP on its own defense, the American steel veil will simply not extend to your borders. The era of the security freeloader is over. This is a realist world, where the US is focused on its own survival, forcing wealthy nations like Germany and Japan to build their own mini Pentagons or face the chaos of the coming decade alone.
What was once a controversial experiment has become the primary eye of the US military. Project Maven utilizes massive neural networks to scan millions of hours of satellite footage, drone feeds, and social media data simultaneously. It can identify a camouflaged missile launcher in the Iranian desert, or a suspicious vessel in the South China Sea that a human analyst would have missed. In 2026, privacy is a luxury of the past, and transparency has been weaponized. If it exists on the surface of the Earth, Maven has already tagged it, tracked it, and assigned it a threat level in the master database.
The US Cyber Command has moved into a state of constant war. They aren't waiting for a hack. They are already inside the enemy's power grids, water systems, and financial ledgers. This doctrine, known as persistent engagement, means that for every attempt to breach an American server, the US retaliates by ghosting the enemy's critical infrastructure. In 2026, the military can turn off a city's life support without firing a single kinetic bullet, turning the digital world into the most decisive theater of conflict the world has ever seen.
The age of the massive aircraft carrier as the only tool of naval power is fading into the sunset. The Navy is pivoting to distributed lethality, a strategy that replaces a few large targets with hundreds of small, unmanned ghost ships armed with vertical launch cells. These autonomous vessels can loiter in contested waters for months, hidden from radar.
creating a fleet of 1,000 Stings. It makes the oceans a nightmare for enemy navies, as any wave could hide a robotic predator capable of sinking a flagship.
Under the newly minted Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, the U.S. military is no longer just a foreign expeditionary force, it is the primary guardian of the Western Hemisphere. The military is now officially deployed at the southern border, utilizing high-tech electronic warfare suites to intercept cartel drone swarms. The border is no longer a political debate, it is a Tier 1 security sector under the direct protection of the Steel Veil, where the goal is the total neutralization of narco-terrorist infrastructure from Mexico to the Darien Gap.
The Space Force has finally come of age, moving from a niche service to the essential guardian of the JADC2 brain. With the deployment of the Starshield constellations, the U.S. now provides unjammable, high-speed data to any soldier on the planet, even in the middle of a nuclear electromagnetic pulse. Space is the high ground of 2026, and the ability to blind an enemy's satellites while keeping American eyes open is the ultimate first move in any conflict.
Amidst the gleaming technology, there is a profound human tragedy unfolding. The soldier of 2026 is less of a rifleman and more of a data manager. The psychological toll of remote killing at scale, managing drone swarms that take lives from 1,000 miles away, is creating a new, invisible kind of trauma. We are winning the wars with machines, but we are losing the connection to the reality of the battlefield. The question remains, what happens to the warrior when the war becomes a video game with real blood?
Foreign policy has become a ledger of profit and loss. Under the current administration, the U.S. military is used only where there is a direct, measurable return on investment for the American taxpayer. This transactional defense means that allies must now prove their worth to Washington in trade deals and resource access before the steel veil is lifted for them. It is realism in its most brutal, honest form, a world where security is a commodity to be bought and sold.
Despite the fiery rhetoric, the ultimate goal in the Pacific is not a total war, but what the 2026 National Defense Strategy calls a decent peace. By building an impenetrable denial defense along the first island chain, the U.S. is making a Chinese invasion of Taiwan too expensive to ever attempt. It is a stability built on the threat of absolute mutual ruin, a cold transactional peace where both superpowers realize that the cost of a bullet is now higher than the value of the ground it would win.
The U.S. military has officially become the primary guardian of energy independence. From protecting LNG terminals in the Gulf of Mexico to securing rare earth mines in the deep interior of Africa, the mission has shifted from protecting oil to total resource dominance. The 2026 soldier is often guarding a kilowatt or a lithium vein, ensuring that the high-tech heart of the American economy never stops beating, regardless of global supply chain collapses.
To avoid the political cost of boots on the ground, the U.S. is increasingly relying on high-tech private military contractors, PMCs, and elite local proxies like the Kurds. These shadow armies operate with American equipment and American intelligence, but without the American flag. This provides Washington with plausible deniability, while the Steel Veil provides the air cover, allowing the U.S. to win regional conflicts without ever officially declaring war.
As the Steel Veil settles over the globe, we are left with a chilling final reality. America has successfully rebuilt its military into the most efficient, autonomous, and deadly killing machine in human history. It has achieved its goal. It is safe, it is secure, and it is untouchable. But in doing so, it has moved further away from the world it once led. We are entering a future where America is no longer a partner, but a fortress. We are safer than ever before, but we are also more alone than ever.
The Steel Veil has been drawn. America has successfully built the most efficient killing machine in human history, but in the process, it has moved further away from the world it once led. We are entering a future where the U.S. is no longer a partner, but an impenetrable fortress. The question remains, in a world of AI generals and hypersonic missiles, is the globe getting safer, or are we just getting faster at destroying it?
If this deep dive gave you a new perspective on the shift in global power, hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that this intelligence matters. Subscribe to Power Politics to stay ahead of the big wave of 2026. And before you go, you need to see our report on the Silicon Strike, the real-time AI war currently unfolding in the Middle East. You can click that right here. I'm Power Politics. Thanks for watching.